most commercial liquid deicers are going to be formulated to be stable within the typical temperature ranges they're going to be likely to experience in regular use. Having said that, there are some ideal temperature ranges where we want to keep our liquid deicers. Is anything catastrophic going to happen if they're stored outside those temperature ranges? Probably not. But let's spend a little bit of time just talking about the ways that temperature affects our common liquid deicers, and that'll give you a little bit better background to draw from as you think about this. So first, let's talk about the high temperature range. Now, usually what we are most concerned with high temperature storage is the possibility of chemical decomposition. You can think about it this way. Molecules are in constant motion. They're always vibrating, they're always shaking, and temperature is really a measurement of how fast they're moving. The higher the temperature of a substance, the faster those molecules are vibrating. So you can imagine that as we raise the temperature of a material, those molecules start shaking more and more. At some point, they're going to be shaking so hard that you can start breaking the molecule apart, and atoms will start flying off all over the place. Now, how sensitive a chemical is to temperature is going to depend on how strongly put together it is. Molecules that have very strong connections between the atoms will be very stable to temperature. On the other hand, we can have molecules that are relatively fragile, and if you start shaking them too much, they'll start breaking apart. And it's going to vary from chemical to chemical. Now, it turns out that the chemicals we use for de-icing are more or less stable to elevated temperatures. Consider first the inorganic salts, like the sodium chloride, magnesium chloride, the acetates, those sorts of things. They're quite stable to temperature. Rock salt, for example, you could melt rock salt and it's not going to do anything. Magnesium chloride and calcium chloride, they can start decomposing at a high enough temperature. Magnesium chloride, for example, will start forming an insoluble compound called magnesium oxychloride. But that's not going to start happening until you get above 450 degrees Fahrenheit. So that's not going to be an issue for any standard storage condition. Potassium acetate. Acetates will also decompose if they get hot enough. But again, potassium acetate does not decompose until you get above about 558 degrees Fahrenheit. So again, not something we really need to worry about. Now, the organic additives, organic compounds tend to be somewhat more temperature sensitive than the simple inorganic salts. But again, probably not going to be the first thing that we worry about with de-icing liquids. One of the most common additives in organic de-icing liquids are simple carbohydrates. If you get them hot enough, they will start to break down, but simple carbohydrates don't start decomposing until you get above about 290 degrees Fahrenheit. So probably not something that's going to be a big issue for regular storage. There can be other trace or other smaller levels of miscellaneous organic compounds sometimes, particularly in maybe the more crude agricultural type liquids, things like proteins, for example. They might be a little more temperature sensitive, but by and large, I would not worry, high temperature decomposition would not be the first thing I'd be concerned with. There might be some possibility of indirect decomposition, say through microbiological growth or mold growth in organic liquids. That's probably more of an issue in the earlier generations of these products than now. So it's something you can ask the manufacturer about if you want to get more information. So by and large, if you look at the directions or the technical data sheets on liquid deicers, they'll usually recommend that they be stored at cool temperatures. And that's always a good idea, just to avoid or minimize the risk of any temperature-induced decomposition. But by and large, high temperature storage is not something we're going to be especially worried about with liquid deicers.